Don, sometimes black women are the backbone of the family, and that means that sometimes they are the very last person to take time to care for themselves. So that means vulnerability, often, to an illness that affects millions of Americans, depression. But because depression isn't often openly talked about in the black community, black women sometimes are unaware that's what they're suffering from. Terry Williams is a successful publicist who's had a long list of top-tier clients. On the surface, she always looked like she had it together. But on the inside,
it was so dark. It was the hardest thing in the world to just get up, to shower, and to dress, and to put the mask on. Because you had to put the mask on. You had to walk out that door and pretend that all was well.
Even a background in social work didn't help Terry see she was suffering from depression. You're a social worker. You know what that means.
Exactly.
How come you didn't know that's what you had?
You don't. You just don't.
Some mental health experts say there's a reason black women often don't recognize they're depressed.
It's definitely something that hasn't been talked about in our culture, and so people don't know what the signs and symptoms of depression are.
Because it's unrecognized, depression often goes untreated. And some health experts say ignoring their mental health may be causing black women's physical health to suffer, contributing to high rates of heart disease, hypertension, and diabetes.
And it has to do with, I call the body screaming. You know, somehow it has to get out. Something has to break down eventually. And so we are breaking down in numbers that are astounding.
I think I'm vulnerable to...
It was after a mental breakdown that Terry Williams got help in the form of therapy and medication.
I was highly irritable. I snapped at people.
She decided to share her story in a book, and with audiences around the country. She's been moved by the response.
When I speak about it at these events, I can't tell you the number of people who come up to me afterwards and say, that's my story, in tears.
How many of those people who say, that's my story too, are black and female?
Overwhelmingly female, black female. Black women carry the nation, carry our communities, do you know? We're nurturers, we're caretakers, and feel like we have to be there and do for everybody.
Brenda Gallion is the oldest of 5 children and was the one the family turned to after her siblings became ill and her mother was diagnosed with cancer. She cared for everyone but herself. She was worn out and gaining weight.
I don't recall ever crying. I did not have time to cry. So 65 pounds could have been mostly tears, you know, just stuff on the inside that wasn't, or I didn't have the ability to get out.
It never occurred to Brenda to see a therapist. Like so many generations of black women, she turned to God instead.
We grew up in church, and when things were beyond what I thought I could handle, I'd pray about it.
Dr. Michelle Balamani understands the importance of the church to black women because she's also an ordained minister. She spent her career trying to build a bridge between church and therapy, letting women know they're not turning away from God by seeking help.
I preach that God can heal in many ways. In the same way that you go to a doctor to get your leg fixed if it's broken, you can go to a therapist if you need one. You need to put your own gas mask on first so that if you're going to be taking care of all these other people, take care of yourself first so you can do a better job at it.
Now with her own gas mask in place, Terry Williams hopes her words can help others begin to heal themselves.
When you hear somebody else and their tears start to flow or you feel the emotion, gets other people talking. That's the goal.
Last year, Terry Williams started a national mental health awareness campaign directed toward the black community. It's called Healing Starts With Us. She hopes to educate African Americans about the signs and symptoms of depression and to end the stigma associated with getting professional help. Don?